Welcome to the third edition of the Octopus Store Hangout. With me today is Jordan
Hey,
and Christina.
Hello.
And of course, I'm Peter. And what great news to start off the Hangout with, other than Datsuk saying he wants to re sign with the Detroit Red Wings.
yeah, that was the best news of the day for sure. It's super exciting. I hope that they can get him signed for another, I don't know, 4 or 5 years till the end, till he's 40. That would be perfect.
Yeah, I always figured he would sign for at least another two on top of what he already has. I think 3 or 4 is the best case scenario, like really going for it. But two, I think, is definitely what he's going to do because by then he'll be 38, 37 or 38. And then I think that gives him enough time to go back to Russia and play at least another season or two there, which is what he wants to do. So awesome.
Yeah, it's huge news. I mean, there's it's the best player, arguably, other than maybe Sidney Crosby in the NHL, and probably the best two-way player. And the fact that he wants to come back and he wants to be here, with all the rumors of him, in the lockout, that he was gonna go to the KHL afterwards because he had so much fun. And, he's from Russia and he wants to play the last couple years of hockey in Russia. And this all the rumors came crashing down this year. That there's always been the subtle rumors that he was going to go back, but this year it was huge amount of rumors, and now they're all gone, all dispelled, and he's coming back. Oh, Jordan. Okay, we're having some technical difficulties here because I cannot hear Jordan talk at all. Um, why is this doing this? Jordan, can you? No, 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 no. Is your thing muted at all or anything like that? Everyone. Okay. What is going on here? It doesn't say you're muted on my end.
No, me neither.
Is there like a
What
little?
about now?
Oh, you can hear you now. Perfect. You're back in.
It just went off and I didn't touch anything, so I don't know.
Okay, what were you gonna say?
I don't know. I was saying that I think Datsuk's at the age he's 34, and that's an age where a lot of good players they start to drop off a little bit, and that's certainly not happening with him. He's almost getting better with age. So if they could get him signed for another 3 or 4 years, that would be perfect.
And since we're on kind of the topic of that, I got a question from Mike, and he asked, do the Red Wings re-sign Filppula? And I think with Datsuk saying he's going to be back, Filppula is no longer really as big of a need as he would have been if Datsuk was going to say, I'm going to the KHL after next year.
Yeah, I think you re-sign Val Filppula at the right price. Depends on what he's asking for. If the rumor that I heard earlier in the year was that he wanted $5 million this season, and if that's a bit steep for me. So if it's $5 million, I'm not sure. I don't think so. But if it's something less, I would be willing to pay him $4 million, but no more than that. So I would like to re-sign him, but it depends on the price.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to re-sign him too, but I am extremely biased because I have loved him ever since he broke onto the roster, and I've always said he has that potential, and he showed that last year when he had his 60-point season.
Yeah.
Granted, he tapered off at the end, and everybody forgot he had 60 points. But this season, he had those moments of brilliance, and then I really haven't seen him since he had a goal against Anaheim, I think, and that was about it. If he really does want $5 million, I think we need to let him go because he's not worth it. And if I'm saying that and I'm extremely biased, I think Ken Holland knows what he's doing and won't re-sign him for $5 million.
Here's the thing, though. He played against Getzlaff, Perry, and he played against the top line for the Ducks, and he shut them down for 6 games. I mean, that he's always been very good defensively, and it's. But the problem is you need offensive production out of your second line, and he didn't get done this year. He had 17 points in 41 games.
Yeah, that's not nearly enough.
Okay.
The thing with Phil Blood too is that it's been so many years of talking about his potential. You know what I mean? That's always what I hear about from people that want to keep him around or that like him. It's always comes down to his potential. And when is it going to be a time where he consistently realizes that potential? I think he's got the potential too, but I want to see it on a consistent night-to-night basis. And he hasn't been able to put together long enough stretches to warrant the type of contract that there's been talk about.
Yeah, and he's not a really young player anymore. He's 29. He should. There's no longer talk of potential. He's in his prime of his career right now. This is it. And then you can go back to his 66 points last season, but there's no really potential anymore once you reach 29. If he's 25, I'll give him it. But once you're 28, 29, there's the potential is gone, and now they're just looking at what you're doing on the ice.
And the fact of the matter is we have so many other younger players that are just rearing for a spot on the roster, and they'd come in cheaper, and they would probably be more consistent than he has been for us. So there's no sense in signing him again and keeping them down in Grand Rapids or trying to pawn them off on somebody else because we don't want to get rid of our prospects. I don't think we should re-sign him. I really don't.
Talking about forwards who are not consistent, Johan Franzen. How did you think he did in the playoffs? Obviously, he didn't. He wasn't playoff Franzen where he had 2 points a game. But did you like his production? Did you think he needed more? What was your issue with him?
I think he was average to below average. I mean, I look at him and he's a -7, which I think led the team in a bad category. He's a -7. I didn't see enough from him. If the Red Wings were going to beat a team like Chicago, he needed to be better. He wasn't good enough.
No, he really wasn't. I mean, he had a couple goals, I think, in like games 2 and 3 or 3 and 4. But that was about it. He was pretty much invisible in 5, 6, and 7. I mean, I didn't see him at all in Game 7 when you're waiting for Franzen to score, 4 goals like he did against Colorado. But it wasn't there, and I was waiting for him to get ticked off because he plays awesome when he's angry and frustrated, but he did nothing. So it's frustrating, and it's frustrating for me since my Twitter handle is Franzenmuth, with all of the conversation I hear about having to possibly buy out his contract because he still has, 7 or 8 more years?
See, I'm on the bandwagon of I thought he had a pretty good postseason. Obviously not production-wise, but he didn't seem to loaf around. Like, he was always working hard, and he was always doing something on the ice. He wasn't his typical, he's not giving any effort, he's just lollygagging out there, and he doesn't deserve to be on the ice type Franzen that happens in the regular season. It was the playoff Franzen, always getting to go. He he had a beautiful snipe shot, and the pucks just didn't seem to find him, and he didn't seem to be able to put it in the back of the net. But I don't think it was because of lack of effort from him.
No, I don't think so either. He
The
wasn't.
thing with Franz,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
He's just he's the streakiest player on the team. And when he's great, and when he's bad. There's not a lot of in between with him, whereas Zetterberg and Datsuk and these guys, you can count on them. You know the type of effort you're going to get from them every night. And Franzen's not like that. He might have 2 or 3 games where he lights it up and he's the best player on the ice, and then he has 2 or 3 games where you don't even know he's out there. So that's my biggest problem with him. But when he's on, you love to have him. But he wasn't on enough for me for these 2 rounds.
See, but I didn't see that type of inconsistency this year in the playoffs. It wasn't like, maybe in production-wise he had inconsistency, but, effort-wise, he was always engaged. He didn't have that kind of inconsistency that you're used to from Franzen, where he's the best player on the ice and then he's, hot garbage. It was always the middle-of-the-road Franzen trying to do what he could, but it didn't necessarily work.
It sounds like we're going to agree to disagree.
That's always. We'll move on to something we can agree to.
Whatever that means. Yeah.
And that's Jimmy Howard. Was he awesome or was he super awesome?
Super awesome. That's all I got. That's all you really need to say. I mean, I have different regulars that come into Caribou that just argue with me every time they come in about how much they hate Jimmy Howard, how terrible he is. And I don't think you can say that after these 2 playoffs. I mean, all of the players after this round said that we wish we could have won it for Howard because he played so well. He kept us in games. He is the reason we went so far in the playoffs with this team that we had. So he was super awesome. You really don't need to say anything else.
I had the feeling with Howard this playoff, which I never had before, where I didn't think he was going to get scored on. You just had that feeling that he was in the zone. He was going to stop everything, and it was the most confident I've been in a Red Wing goaltender since Hasek, to be honest. He was just in a different space this year, and he was awesome, super awesome.
Well, and it's kind of like, it's funny you brought up Hasek because he really did make me think of Hasek, where he would let in a goal or 2, but nothing else would get past him. He would keep us within 2 goals and keep us in the game, and Hasek always did that.
Yeah, I think hopefully Jimmy Howard laid a lot of that, stuff to bed where, he's not the playoff goaltender that the Red Wings need. They need to get a guy who can win in the playoffs. I hope he put a lot of that to bed because I thought he played fantastic against the Sharks 2 years ago. I thought he played even better this year.
Yeah,
I mean, we took
this is the best he ever played.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. So who? Obviously, Chicago moves on, and you could say Corey Crawford bested Jimmy Howard, but realistically, which goalie would you prefer to have on your team? Who won that goalie fight?
I think Crawford won it only because they're moving on. He didn't get scored on in Game 7 of overtime. As unlucky as that goal was for Howard, I thought they both had really, really tremendous series. But I think Crawford won, so you got to give him the edge. But Howard was no chump.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there's nothing really bad that you can say about Crawford's play except that he was playing too well and we needed to score more goals on him. That's about all you can say.
Yeah, he definitely had a good playoff. I guess I'm still giving my edge to Jimmy, just because even in the games that Chicago won 4-1, like none of those were bad goals. None of them were like Jimmy wanted that one back. The only goal I could say Jimmy wanted back was Hjalmarsson's that got taken away anyways.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Yeah, and I guess the argument for Howard is that he was facing a lot tougher shooters than Crawford was, right? Hosa and Sharp and Kane and Taves and the list goes on and on. He was facing a tougher task than Corey Crawford was, I think.
yeah. But even like some of Crawford's goals, he had to been kicking himself. Like I know Joachim Anderson's goal was sort of knuckle puck, but he- the fact that he didn't make that save was just terrible from how far out it was.
Yeah, I do give him credit, though, because I thought that goal would kind of break him that game, and it would just lead to Red Wings goal after Red Wings goal, and it didn't, and it was almost frustrating, just because we were all expecting to easily move on because we were so high up against Chicago in the series, and it was just disheartening that terrible goal that he didn't stop.
Yeah.
It didn't break him.
So we were talking about Jarmerson's goal. So how did you guys feel about the officiating in the playoffs this round? Jordan's already getting a little animated there.
The thing that always bothers me, and it's always the same problem that I have with the officiating, is consistency. It's so inconsistent. You don't know what they're going to call, when they're going to call it. I don't know. It just varies so much game to game, even period to period. They call one hook and then they let one go, or you don't know what they're going to call anytime. If it was okay, we're gonna call every single hook that we see, I would almost prefer that over calling one and then letting one go. I just never knew what to expect with the officiating. That's my big problem.
Yeah.
And if you look at the penalty shots in the series, or the penalty shot in the series, the one game before that, I thought it was a clear penalty shot for Chicago, and they didn't call that one. And then the one they gave them, I didn't think was a penalty shot. So you just never know.
Yeah, and even like during the games, just like Andrew Shaw, the fact that he was able to play is amazing. The amount of crap he got away with. I know they're going to say, oh, but he got the goal called back because he was in the crease. No, that doesn't even... He elbowed Kindle in the back of the head, didn't get anything. In game... I think it was game 7 or game 6, I don't remember. But he was going to the net, he leaned on Anderson and fell down. And they called interference.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
Apparently, you can't lean on a guy and fall down, or it's a penalty on you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it made no sense to me. And being a Red Wings homer, it seemed like Chicago got a lot of breaks in the penalty department. And they'd probably say it the other way, well, Tams was getting cross-checked. Well, did you see what, Andrew Shaw was doing to Zetterberg after the whistle? Like, that happens. But it's the blatant calls that I think they got away with quite a bit more than us. And even on the game-winning goal, I think it was Smith got boarded in the OT goal from behind. Just smoked into the glass. No call. Then I just, end that whole debate there.
I don't really know what else you can say because the reffing is never going to be consistent, and it's always going to be infuriating, and it's always going to be, we're wearing our tinfoil hats and all that jazz, and it's just, what else can you say? It's like beating a dead horse. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand why that was a penalty shot. I still don't know how I feel about their intent to blow on the one goal that they got waved off, but whatever. It happens. There's nothing you can do about it. It just infuriates you the more you think about it.
It's a tough league to officiate for sure, but
yeah.
they make plenty of mistakes. But that happens. It is what it is.
And we touched on Andrew Shaw a little bit there, but I kind of want to know what your feel. And I was hoping to have Keith from Blackhawk up on here to kind of talk about it a little bit because he did say himself that he didn't like Andrew Shaw and he thought he was just being a punk out there, and sadly he wasn't able to join us. So I want to know kind of what you guys think about Andrew Shaw and all of his shenanigans and.
That's playoff hockey. I don't know. You do what you got to do to win, and if it means getting a little dirty, it means getting a little cheap, getting your nose dirty. That's what it takes, you know. And it seems every team that's successful or wins the Stanley Cup has that type of player on their team, whether it's Matt Cook or whoever, you know. It seems to be, you know, that's part of the recipe. The play on Filppula, yeah, it was a cheap play, but he got away with it, and that the Red Wings, it hurt the Wings, and I guess good for him. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with Jordan. I mean, we don't have a player like that. We have Bertuzzi, who is almost too afraid sometimes to really go for it. And we have Tutu, but sometimes he gets either carried away or he just doesn't know exactly where his place is. And then he wasn't playing at all this series, so we didn't really have anyone to combat that except for Abdelkader, I guess. But he's become more of like a core player on Datsuk's line, so he's not being a punk out there, I guess is the best way to put it. So, yeah, as much as it may infuriate us and as much as I may hate him, he did what he did because he wanted to win.
So looking ahead, we have the Hawks versus the Kings, Bruins versus the Penguins. Who do you want to win out of those four?
Nobody. Nobody. I don't want anyone to win. I don't like any of these teams. Who do I think will win? I think the LA Kings will take out Chicago in the West Final. I think they're big, they're strong, they can score, they have great goaltending. They know what it takes to win. They just did it last year. I think they're going to take out the Hawks. I like the chemistry of their team a lot. And in the East, Pittsburgh, I don't see Pittsburgh losing. They have too much depth, too much skill. They're too much to handle.
I agree with LA. There's not really much different with this team than there was from last year, and they won. I think it's going to be a good series. I predicted Kings in 7, but all of my predictions were wrong this round, so just don't go out and buy a lottery ticket if I tell you to, because it's just bad advice. And for the East, I think Boston will give the Penguins a run for their money. I mean, they're a big, tough team. They easily rolled over the Rangers, but it's the Rangers, and they never seem to go anywhere in the playoffs. And I think that'll be a good round, too. Just as long as Pittsburgh loses. I don't care who wins.
See, I want the Kings to just destroy the Hawks. I want them... And apparently you should listen to me because me being the idiot, said the Hawks were going to win in 7. So send all your hate mail to me. I apologize for that. I should have said the Red Wings, and maybe it'd be a different story. But I want the Kings to beat the Hawks, and I want the Bruins to beat the Penguins, and then I want the Bruins to beat the Kings. Because if the Kings won it all, then the Red Wings weren't the last team to go back-to-back.
I thought of that the other day.
I don't want to lose that. I'm selfish. As a Red Wings fan, I'm selfish. I don't want to lose that. I want the Red Wings to stay in the last back-to-back until we're able to do it again. And I don't know. I don't hate the Bruins. I hate the Penguins. I don't want the Hawks to win because they beat us. And everyone says, you always root for the team that beats you. No, you don't.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a back-to-back. I don't see any team that's going to beat Pittsburgh, honestly. Up front, they're just too dynamic and deep. I don't know. Whether you shut down Crosby, then it's Malkin, then it's Iginla, then it's Neal. It just goes on and on with that team. I see them winning it all.
But the problem with them is their goaltending. Can Vokun keep up, what he's doing? He's playing very well.
But if he lets in 6, they'll score 7.
They have that potential. It's unfortunate that they have that potential, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess for me it's Bruins number 1, and then after them Kings because they're not the Penguins, and then number 3 is Penguins, and then number 4 would be the Hawks to win.
I would be okay with the Hawks making it as long as Boston won, because then you can have an original 6 for the Stanley Cup Finals. But it's not us, so it's not that important. So just
True.
as long as Boston wins, that's fine.
So moving away from that now, let's talk about the future of the Red Wings. And a lot of people were kind of writing the Red Wings off this year, saying, we were going to have a down year, we weren't going to make the playoffs, our future isn't that bright, we're out. Jordan's raising his hand, that was me. The guy writing, all the Seth Jones posts. I got so angry when I saw another one of those being written. I was like, no. But it made sense at the time. And how do you feel about the Red Wings' future now?
Yeah, I was writing about this today. It looks a lot better than it did like 5 or 6 months ago. It's crazy how fast things can change. You know what I mean? And Brunner and Nyquist, that line was insane. Some of the young defensemen played great. De Kaiser, the way he looks like he's going to be on the blue line for the next 20 years, the way he plays, and it's unbelievable. And then you look, and Grand Rapids is in the West Final, and they're doing what they're doing. It looks super bright. And now we didn't give away our first round pick this year. We actually have one. So, and we could come up with a player there. I think. We made it to the second round this year. It's Game 7 against the best team with the team that we have now, and it's looking we can only go up from here, I think.
And speaking about the first round draft pick, we draft 18th overall, which is the highest it's been in a while. And this is a super deep draft. They're going to get a very, very talented player at number 18.
Yeah.
Christina, how do you feel?
I think our future is bright. I think it's not as bright as we're used to, because we're always used to having just like 1 or 2 superstar players in Grand Rapids ready to come up at a moment's notice. And we do have a lot of really good players. I think what needs to happen, and we saw that a lot in these playoffs with how far we went and how well we started to mesh, was that these rookies, these call-ups, need to play with each other and get used to each other and get used to all the veterans on the team. And you saw that in games 2, 3, and 4 against Chicago, where we just looked solid. And I think we will still be a force to be reckoned with. We may not always be the top Stanley Cup contenders in like preseason predictions, but I think we will still be making the playoffs and making that streak go on higher and higher.
Yeah, and you throw in a nice free agent signing this summer too, and we're looking really good. You add a David Clarkson to this lineup, a healthy Darren Helm next season, and we're right back at the top of the league again, I think.
I agree.
And the other thing you look at is, the rookies that played this year. Joachim Anderson. Look at all the 14 games of playoff experience now. Damian Brunner, who's a rookie, although he's 26, or he turned 27. I don't remember his age. I'm a bad fan. Brendan Smith, who's never played a playoff game in his career, scored 2 goals. Wasn't so good on the defensive end all the time, but he created scoring chances for both teams, and he did it very well. And Nyquist played a bit last year in the playoffs. This was his first, true experience. De Kaiser played a couple games in the playoffs. Lashoff played a couple games in the playoffs. So we have all these young rookies who now have a bunch of experience, not only in the regular season, but in the playoffs. And moving forward, having young guys with playoff experience is a huge boost to your team. And then that doesn't even count that, Tomas Tatar wasn't playing. And uh, Thomas Yurko wasn't playing. And Timu Polkinen wasn't playing for us. And Carl Jankrock, who's going to be in Grand Rapids next year. And Martin Frick, who went to the Memorial Cup and won the Memorial Cup with 3 points in that game. He's going to be in Grand Rapids next year. And we have Ryan Sproul, who's going to Grand Rapids. Or he's in Grand Rapids right now. And you look at the absolute depth that the Red Wings have right now that people didn't think they had at the beginning of the year. It's actually pretty astounding what they've been able to do in a transitioning year and getting ready for the future.
Definitely, and looking forward to next year. I am looking forward to having Darren Helm back in the lineup. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah,
because I really, really miss him on the penalty kill. Like every single penalty kill, I'm like, all right, Darren Helm's shorthanded goal. Crap, he's not in the lineup yet. I'm waiting for it. I really am. It'll be exciting.
To the guys who were playing, Emerton and Anderson were phenomenal on the penalty kill.
Emerton, Anderson, and Darren Helm, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be magical. I'm excited.
Well, if Drew Miller comes back next year as well, he's a huge boost on that penalty kill. But Anderson was phenomenal in the face-offs over the playoffs. In I think it was Game 6, he went 7-0. He didn't lose face-off.
Yeah, and Anderson's one of those players that will make it a little easier to take if the Red Wings do lose Filppula this summer, because you can slot him right in there. He plays a similar style to Filppula. He's good on faceoffs. He's super reliable in all areas of the ice. He can chip in with the odd goal. He pretty much did Filppula's job this playoff about as good as he did. So, yeah.
So. What a season for the Red Wings. Nobody expected us to be where we were, or to make the playoffs, 2 to beat Anaheim, and 3 to take Chicago to 7 games. I mean, it was a phenomenal run for this team. And although I wish they had moved on and won the Stanley Cup, I can't count this season as a disappointment in my mind. How do you guys feel about this run the Wings had?
Well, the Game 7 overtime loss that sucks, but I didn't think they would make the playoffs. So this was a super successful season. You got to think after what happened to them in the offseason, losing Lidstrom, Stewart, and the list goes on, that they could put this kind of effort in. It's unbelievable. If last year with Lidstrom, they lost in 5 games in the first round in Nashville. And then this year, without him and a bunch of unproven players, they go to the 7th game in the second round against the best team in hockey. I don't see how that's anything but a huge step forward.
Jordan stole all my points. Yeah, I am very happy with what this team did. I mean, and I missed the last hangout, but the first hangout we sat here and said, do you think we'll make the playoffs? It was like 5 or 6 games left. And half of us said no, and half of us said yes. And the fact that, we blew a 3-1 lead, and I'm going to hear some crap for that tomorrow when I work at Caribou from all the customers that were telling me we were going to blow our 3-1 lead. But we took the best team in the NHL to 7 games, and we took them to overtime to make them win it. You can't be disappointed. You can, but you can't be disappointed. I mean, you can only be upset with them for so long because they did so much with such unproven talent. And I think they proved that we still have a bright future here. Definitely.
So does anyone have any last thoughts before we head out?
Oh, I think I'm excited to see what the move to the East is gonna do for us next year, and it's a bit different style in the East. It's a little more physical, not quite as freewheeling as the Western Conference. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Red Wings adapt to that kind of East Coast style next year. That's exciting.
I'm excited for all of the Toronto-Detroit games because I've been to a couple of those at the Joe, and they are awesome. They're just a treat. They're an adventure every time you go there, and I'm excited for it.
All the original 6 games. There's going to be a lot more. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
A conference with 4 original 6 teams. The history there is just amazing. I guess my last point will be I'm looking forward to what Jakob Kindl brings to the table next year because he took a huge step this season from a guy who, we bring in Carlo Koliakovo and we go, okay, well, Jakob Kindl's going to be our 7th defenseman. He's going to be sitting and he might play a game or two, to a guy in the playoffs who's commanding the power play and, getting shots through and creating chances. I mean, it's amazing the transformation he's made this season, and I can't wait to see what he does with a full offseason, a full training camp, and a full preseason.
And I know my girlfriend's excited about that too because she saw Jakob Kindl in the playoffs and she thought he looked like Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones. And she said, "Who is he?" So I know she's excited to get a full season of Jakob Kindl next year.
Awesome.
Oh, that's great. Okay, and I think that's how we're going to end this Google Hangout. Jakob Kindl is Jaime Lannister. So, for all of us here at Octopus Store, I'd like to say have a good day, and let's go Red Wings.